This week on the Buy Back Your Life show, talking with Jeff Barker and Dakota Warkentin, the founders of real estate investment firm Opinicon Investments. Did I say that right, Jeff?
You did, yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Well, Jeff, Dakota, welcome to the show. Thank you guys for being here. What is keeping you busy day to day right now?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Glad
happy to be here. Day to day right now, it's pretty crazy in a good way though. So we're full-time real estate investors. So it's growing the business day to day. We have been in the flipping business for about a year and a half now. So keeping projects going, making sure they're going on the right track,
Staying
and
within
then
budget, staying
yeah,
on
all that
timelines.
all that fun stuff. And we're also this year getting into like 10 plus unit multifamily. So not only are we trying to keep our flip projects going, we're also kind of learning the ins and outs of multifamily right now. So it's busy, but it's exciting. Big things.
A lot of networking, a lot of knowledge intake. Really, we started a new coaching program, and it's just been a lot to kind of take on. So
You know what? That's good. That's amazing. Like sometimes you have to have that chaos in your life to kind of there's so much going on, and that kind of forces you to step up your game and just get after it and just go make stuff happen, right? I think are you guys familiar with Russell Brunson at all? I think he runs Clicks Funnels. He always talks about like if you're not creating enough chaos in your life, you're not like totally slammed, you're not doing enough. You got to just get out there and start making it happen.
love the chaos.
Yeah,
sounds like you guys are doing it.
Well, and chaos kind of, it ends up creating opportunity in a lot of ways too, right? So as long as you can kind of control that chaos and get a handle on it, some great things can come out of it. So
For sure. So you guys are masters of organization and like spreadsheets and all that stuff now? Have to be, right?
Yeah, you can't see beside us here, but there's papers just piled up. So
yeah.
I don't know about the organization side of it, but
Jeff's the spreadsheet guy. I leave that up to Jeff. But I mean, we obviously with like running numbers and stuff, you have to get pretty good at like working with spreadsheets. And I'm not going to say we're great bookkeepers, but you got to do some of it. So we're getting better. We're getting better. But Jeff's definitely the spreadsheet dude.
Right on. That's awesome. Good for you guys. It sounds like you've kind of gone past like maybe the recreational investor, let's call it, like just having one or two properties. You guys are kind of at that next level where you're running your own business. This is a full-time gig for you. Did you guys start with just like one property at the beginning, or how'd that first kind of property get under your, how'd that happen?
Well, so very first property, I guess, accidental investor. I bought a townhome back in 2012, just as a personal residence. Had no interest or no knowledge that I could even be a real estate investor. I was working in IT, and that was kind of the path that I had taken. But when we started to learn more about it, we did buy in 2019. We bought a bungalow that we converted to 2 units. So we were living upstairs, and then we had the lower level unit under renovation while we were living there, and then we rented it out while we were living there as well. So we were doing some house hacking.
Perfect.
Yeah, we ended up refinancing Jeff. Jeff refinanced his townhome. And we actually used that to buy that second property that we ended up moving into. And we rented out the townhome after we moved. So we sort of became real estate investors through that. It was partially purposeful, but it also kind of just happened, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. We learned about the refinance into another property. And that's why we did that strategy. But yeah, the purchase of the bungalow was 100% investment purchase.
Cool.
So that was the whole idea behind that one.
And then from there, like you see kind of how the power of it works. You go from having one property to having a rental, plus you're living in one and renting the basement out, and you kind of see the power of it. And then it kind of clicked from there. Is that the catalyst moment was kind of when that happened?
Pretty much, yeah. And we realized pretty quickly, I think, that we wanted to do that full time and get out of our day-to-day, just regular 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah, I think we really realized it after we completed the basement conversion, because the project was not an overly fun one. It was our first big project, and I think to jump into creating a legal secondary suite was a bigger undertaking than we thought it was going to be. So at the end, the project took way too long. We spent more money than we should have. There may have been some tears along the way, but we we finished
Definitely
it.
some frustration.
A lot of frustration. But we finished it, we got through it. And despite all of the craziness that happened, we got out of it and we're like, this is really cool. We want to do more of this. So I think if you're crazy enough to like finish that and be like, I still want to do this,
right,
then it's your thing. So
well, when we refinanced it as well, it worked out really well. We were able to pay back. We had one investor on that one, my mom, and she got she got all of her money back to help us. The investment was to help us basically do the renovation itself.
Right.
But she got all of her money back plus a good return. So that's when we realized, like, wow, we could. This could be really good.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Right, some powerful that you guys just keep replicating now and keep it moving.
I think, yeah, every purchase beyond that one was under corporation.
Yeah,
that was So we dove in with the corporation knowing that this is what we wanted to do, and we were going to be doing multiple flips or projects, and we wanted them to be under a corp rather than our personal names.
Yeah, you can see that kind of path forming for yourselves, and just get it out of the corp early, and just go from there. That's cool. Yeah, that's quick. Holy cow! 2019, 3 years. You guys have done a lot. Dakota, what did you do before real estate?
I was in medicine before I got into real estate.
Okay.
I think a lot like Jeff. Jeff's actually the one that got me into real estate. But when I started in medicine, like I loved it. I always found the human body and disease and how the human body can cope was really found it really interesting. I was a biology nerd, definitely, when I was in my undergrad. So I loved medicine, but there was, I love medicine. I didn't like the politics of working in a hospital and working in medicine. So at the beginning, Jeff was like, oh, come to this weekend seminar with me. And I was like, why on earth would I spend my Saturday in an air conditioned room learning about real estate? That sounds terrible. But he ended up convincing me to go. And
why? How did I convince you to go?
So one day this is going to bite me in the butt. So Jeff told me that Scott McGilvery was going to be the one that was running the seminar. It was a Keyspire seminar.
Yeah.
And I love HGTV, so I knew who Scott McGilvery was. And I was like, of course I'll go, once I found out that it was Scott McGilvery. But my vision was I'll go and I'll get my picture with Scott McGilvery and it's going to be really cool. I had no idea I was going to actually learn stuff. That wasn't my goal. Obviously that changed after I got there. But Scott McGilvery is the reason that I am now a real estate investor, and probably not for the reason he thinks that I made that transition.
Unintended, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really after that seminar that things changed. And obviously the medicine environment with COVID got very interesting. And just with burnout and that kind of stuff, I realized that I wanted to jump into real estate investing full time. So that's when that transition, I guess, in my brain happened.
Cool. Yeah, take a little bit more control of your lifestyle. Yes. And just control your time a little bit better. That's cool. I guess I got to ask the question then, did you ever get that picture? Was it worth it?
Oh yeah, of course. I definitely got that picture. It's one of those things that I talk about it in presentations and stuff on how we got into real estate investing. And the deeper we get into this community, I'm like, oh man, he's going to find out at some point. It's going to be a really weird interaction. But yeah, I definitely got my picture.
Cool. Awesome. I have a question. Is he's local? Yeah, he's up there, up in Ottawa way.
Sorry?
He's up in Ottawa. Is that what you said? He's a local guy?
No, I said it's a small world.
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're in the community of real estate investing long enough, you'll eventually meet pretty much everyone who does it at a high level that you guys do. So that's bound to happen at some points. But
I know.
It's funny. That's funny. I was at a conference with my wife too, and it was the first one I got her to come along to. With Grant Cardone was the speaker a couple of years ago, and he actually said, he's like, if you're an investor here and your better half isn't in the crowd with you, you couldn't convince him to come, that's a problem. You have to have both pieces on board to really make this thing work and push it to that next level. So I'm glad you guys are doing that. Yeah, you guys are doing this together. It's amazing. Congratulations to you guys for starting a company and working that process and getting it up and running. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, right? So kudos to you guys. Did you guys face any kind of, I don't want to say backlash, but like questions from people when you told them, hey, we're quitting our jobs to do this full time?
Oh yeah.
What was that like? Yeah.
Absolutely.
We had two different experiences. I mean, I think immediately you go to your family, right? Like how your family kind of reacts to it. We had very different reactions, I think, from our family. And it all comes down to mindset and sort of beliefs of your family. Because my dad has always been like a businessman, entrepreneur type of a person. So he really, the only thing that I guess was a little bit of an issue with him is he's a financial advisor. So the difference in our ideas on investing is it doesn't create friction, but we just don't really talk about it. So that was the only piece that was difficult for him. And then my mom's also like, she owns a business, she's starting another business, so she's also in the entrepreneur mindset. So with my parents, it really wasn't a big deal. They saw our vision, they saw where we were going, and they were like, if that's your thing, if that's what's going to make you happy, and then go for it. So I didn't really get a whole lot of pushback from my family.
Mine was a little bit different. My parents, my dad worked for the government and my mom was a teacher, so golden handcuffs, pensions, right? You're in that 9 to 5 for, it's the 40-40 plan, 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life kind of thing. But by the time we were quitting our jobs, there actually wasn't a lot of pushback. It was just leading up to that, I think, with everything that we were doing. By the end of me, like at the time that I was quitting my job, they were pretty much okay with it. They saw what we were doing. So
they could see a future for you guys.
Well, and Jeff's mom was our first investor too, so she actually got in on our first project that we ever did. So I think it happened for her a little bit quicker, and then eventually, I mean, it was 3 years before we quit our job that we were in it, so they saw where it was going and how much it meant to us. So it was just a progression. I think if it had been like real estate is a thing and we're quitting our job, it would have been a little bit different. But we were already sort of 3 years into our journey, almost 4 years, I think, and it made the blow a little bit softer.
And when we did quit, we had 4 projects on the go at the same time. So we had both of us working full time and four flip projects happening. So.
That's a lot. That's a lot going on. But to grow those beginning, you need some kind of capital, right? To get funding and to get a mortgage. And like if you're working with investors, you can kind of skirt those kind of issues. But if you have your own cash coming in, it helps be able to float different payments when you have your own income source, right? When that's gone, then it's just totally on whatever the company owns and finding partners to come into the deal, right? So different challenges, but
it's been different since we've quit a little bit with that, because we were able to cover it a little bit more from our own side. But it's a lot more raising capital and finding partners.
You just build up a different skill set, right? It's not a big deal. Just go figure out how to do it.
You just got to figure it out.
We have the time now, so
but we were already also like, we're more established at this point than if we had never had jobs at all during the process. So it was good in that we were able to kind of cover things if we had to with our jobs and kind of create the reputation that we have. And now that we have that already, people are more willing to invest with us because we actually have a bit of a track record now. So that, I think it was, the transition time was right where we had enough of a track record that people are willing to invest with you, and it makes it a little bit easier to find investors at this point.
For sure. So they see the success, they want a little bit of a piece of that. They meet you guys, as long as they trust you. Hey, let's do this. You guys know what you're doing. So that's cool. But that does take time and energy. And one of my favorite quotes, one of the rock star guys, I don't know if you know them, out of Toronto, Tom and Nick Karadza, they always say entrepreneurs are the only people that'll work 80 hours a week to not have to work 40 hours a week.
But it's 80 hours on your own terms.
Yeah, that's right. and doing what you want to do, and no one's giving you shit or anything. So it's
Yeah.
it's
And you're
true
building
though.
something for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not, or your family or whatever, right? It's not building something for the CEO of a company.
Yeah, I would never say that I'm less busy now than I was when I was in my full-time job. I probably, if anything, work more than I did in my full-time job.
For sure.
But at least I know that I did that to myself, right? Like if I'm working this hard, it's for me,
Yeah.
and it's not for, you know, whatever company I'm working for. So that, and it's on my own terms, right? So if Monday doesn't work for me and I want to take the day off, you can, but then you maybe work Saturday or you work Sunday. Like days of the week don't mean anything anymore.
Right.
So that's where the beauty comes in. I'm not in like total vacation mode by any means, but at least like
No.
you know, you can move your schedule around as you need it, as you need to.
Yeah. And as things come up when you're doing flips, then I've never done one myself, but just knowing the construction, the trade industry, things will happen where you need to kind of drop everything and go handle a problem. And like you can make your time for that. When you have a corporate job, that's not as easy, right? If you don't have a team managing things, it's hard to kind of say, okay, I can't do this today. I got to fix this. And now you guys have that time. So you guys are able to do those kind of things and move projects ahead quicker, right?
Yeah. Trying to get contractors to meet you on evenings and weekends is impossible.
Yeah, it's very tough.
So to be able to do that during the day it's a big change.
Yeah. So back to your the first project you guys did you guys do the work yourselves? Or do you hire out contractors to do that?
So we hired a contractor
right from the get-go, day one, eh? You weren't guys, you weren't going to do drywall and that stuff. You want to just get that off the table, eh?
We were working full time, right?
Yeah.
It would have taken us forever, and we knew that going in, that it was going to take us way too long to do it if we did it ourselves.
Yeah, that wasn't a mindset that we needed to work very hard on changing, where we felt like we needed to be doing everything. I think we realized very quickly that if you want to get that project done, and then if you want to scale, you have to let go of some stuff and delegate and let the pros do their thing. I think that's a mindset that I feel like is very tough for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but we didn't seem to have that issue right off the bat. Like we were very willing to be like, nope, the contractor is the one who knows what he's doing. We're gonna give that to him, and we're fine with paying that that bit of extra to get him to do the job.
Or in the case of the first project, a lot of extra.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. But
that was a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So.
But you guys learn a ton from it, right? And you guys keep applying that moving forward.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It just becomes a lesson.
Well, I think the biggest thing we learned after that project was that we needed a coach, which that was the life-changing learning from them. We obviously learned a lot of little things along the way, but the biggest thing I think we learned was that we needed help.
Investing in ourselves in that way. Like we had read a lot of books and invested our time and a little bit of money with like buying books and stuff into ourselves, but then we actually dove into a good coaching program that helped us scale, and that's actually what got us to doing 4 projects at the same time while we were working full time. So.
Yeah, just that kind of guiding light, the answers to problems you guys have. That they've been there, they've done that. They just shave the time off what you guys want to accomplish, right? And you guys can take it and go. It's amazing. Yep. So can we jump into like a project you guys got going on now, or just completed one of your flips? Can we kind of dig into one of those? If that's cool.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Do you have a recent one that you kind of purchased? You guys go, you can maybe walk through the process of what you guys are looking for, where you guys look, and just kind of walk through like start to finish, if that's cool.
Sure. I mean, we can do one that we did from start to finish and it's sold and gone.
Sure.
So numbers from the beginning to the end on that.
Yeah.
If you want to. But as for what we look for, it's mostly just any property that has some value add potential that we're able to purchase at kind of like a wholesale price, do some renovations to it, and then sell it for retail at the end. That's the high level.
And specifically our flips, I guess, right now we'll kind of go over from a flipping lens. We'll put on our flipping lens.
Sure. Yeah. That'd be great.
So there was one that we bought in Barrhaven. We actually bought it from a wholesaler. So we bought it for $535,000.
Okay.
There was a wholesale fee 15,000. So we bought it off of a wholesaler. So 550K was our purchase on that.
Mhm. And the biggest thing on purchase is, like Jeff said, the wholesale pricing. So ideally you're buying it under market value, so you're actually making money on the buy. And I think a lot of people are like, well, how do you do that? That's not possible.
Who's going to sell you the house under market value?
Yeah. But there are so many reasons that someone wants to sell their property just to like get rid of it. And it's not like you're taking advantage of them or anything like that. It's you're figuring out how to help them get out of the problem that they're in.
Right.
And then it's a win-win for both you and the person that you're buying from.
Right.
So it is possible. Obviously, it's harder to find, but that way you're also able to help people get out of their issue. You become like a problem solver, basically.
Right. And those kind of deals aren't floating around too much on the MLS. I'd imagine like you have to kind of go on these, like network your way into kind of finding these kind of deals and have them come across your desk, right?
Yep. Yeah. And then like flyer campaigns, you can put out signs that say we buy houses. You have a magnet on the side of your car that says we buy houses.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of things that you can do to advertise that you can purchase a property from somebody that just in the non-traditional way where they don't have to put it on the market. Some people, they're embarrassed with how their house looks and they don't know how to fix it. They don't have the ability to fix it. Hoarder houses, typically houses where it's a burden for them and it's not like they're just trying to get top dollar. It's not like there's a lot of pride in the house.
Right.
It's more so that it's a burden.
They want that sense of relief of just getting rid of it. And you guys are like, yeah, okay, you'll take it, no problem.
Yeah. And then you help them out with that and kind of try to do it on their terms as much as possible so that you get, like I said, the win-win out of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So that's how you guys find the places. Then what's step 2?
Yeah. So I guess for this property in particular, like you have to sort of figure out what renos you're going to do, right? Because you can definitely over renovate a property very easily. So with this one in particular, the kitchen was already in, like the cabinets were already in decent shape. So we left those. So we try to, like, if things are in decent shape and we can just like paint them, make them look a little bit better, we'll do that.
They were white, but they were scratched up. So we just had to basically do a touch up on them.
Yeah. And we really focus on like kitchens, bathrooms, like coat of paint, flooring, try to put as little work into basements as possible, just make them nice, really the big value add renovations. So with this one, it was actually pretty straightforward. We got lucky because the 2 bathrooms were already like beautifully renovated. There was one that we ended up basically gutting and
the powder room they hadn't touched.
So thankfully the 2 bathrooms were already done. So some kitchen touch-ups and then really like flooring and paint throughout the whole house. That was really like the big renos for that house. There wasn't there was one like seating area that we had to put a little bit more work into with like the fireplace wasn't lovely. So we'll call that like a living room.
It was very dated. Yeah. It was like it was a gas fireplace, but it was painted brown. And then it had wallpaper kind of up the mantle all the way to the ceiling that it was blue and brown, very old wallpaper.
That was lovely.
Sounds vintage 1970s.
Pretty cool before and after.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
There's a good before and after picture of that one because we did a new white tile all the way up the that chimney kind of inside the house. So it looks really good and painted in black.
Yeah, so it's really like we go in and we try not to do any over renovating. We'll also look at the area as well. And for this one, it was sort of like a mid-tier kind of home. It's not like a starter home, but it's not like a luxury home. So we'll kind of look in the area and, see what other newly renovated houses, what kind of finishes they have so that we're not going like way above and beyond what the community kind of not allows for, but desires, I guess.
Sure, like the expectation of what's going to be there.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll sort of, make it on par with the sort of the nicer homes in the neighborhood. So the rental for that one was about 110,000. And then obviously you have to finance the home somehow while you're doing all of this. And this was actually one of our most expensive mortgages that we had was this house. It was 15% was the mortgage for that one.
Well,
plus 2 points.
Yeah,
so
plus 2 points.
Plus 2% fee on the purchase.
and that's just like with the private lender, just the way you had access to capital in this one, just that's what you're paying. And then obviously you don't want that sitting on the market very long. You want to get in and get out on that kind of thing. That's like credit card territory. Holy cow.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, the product is made specifically for flippers, so it allows you to put 20K down. So your down payment is like minimal, but obviously then you're going to pay more on the interest side of things. So obviously you're running your numbers. You want to make sure you figure out the cost of financing your bills while you're holding. So like the financing was about, I think we paid about 35K.
Yeah,
for the financing.
This whole project from start to finish, like actual close to close, was 3.5 months.
Yeah.
So it was very fast.
That seems quick. Yeah.
It was. We got it in and out as fast as we could.
Yeah, and we sold in like the heat of the market as well, so that was really nice.
Perfect. So you buy for $550. You put like 5% down on this thing with or just over 5% down. You guys go in, get your contractor in there, 110 for renovations. Everybody wants to know what the sell price was. How this one profit for you guys?
So before we say what it sold for, what we were anticipating that it would sell for, because that's one of the first things that we do, and I guess we failed to mention that, is we look to see once we renovate it, what will it be worth afterwards, or what could it be worth when we're done our renovations?
Yeah.
So we had an after repair value of $775 in our numbers.
Yeah, and this is really important to get right, obviously, because this is what the whole project is based around, is your ARV. So that is a vital piece, and we'll actually typically underestimate our ARV just so that we're playing it safe. So ARV for this one was about $775, and we sold it for
$951,000.
Oh, nice.
Like I said, heat of the market, and it was within 24 hours. Like the offer we received was probably about 5 hours after we listed.
Wow,
it was insane.
Good for you guys. Holy cow.
So this was our like holy grail of flips.
Yeah,
we've done like ugly ones as well, where you're like just maybe scraping by the skin of your teeth kind of thing, but that was like our holy grail one. So I don't want to be like, oh, that's what all flips are like. Definitely not. But that one was like heat of the market, right when things were like really crazy. So we got I'll say lucky. We got a little bit lucky on that one with just timing of listing it.
Yeah. For people that are listening, don't go try and expect this right now in the market. Market's kind of in a bit of a pullback right now, so those numbers aren't going to be there the way that one was. But like obviously, you guys had a ballpark that would still have been profitable, and you go and you do the work, and that's just the icing on the cake for taking advantage of that opportunity, right?
Yeah, it's like a cherry on top, right? Like you never think that you're gonna make hundreds of $1,000s on a flip for the most part. Like we typically will run it at like a 40 to 50K margin. And, sometimes, and we've had people that we actually did a presentation recently, and there was another flipper that presented and he had made 5K, and someone asked the question of, why are you okay with taking 5K and these guys made hundreds of thousands on their flip? It's not something that you really go into expecting, right? Like you don't expect to make 5K, you don't expect to make hundreds of thousands.
Unless you hit it out of the park on the buy.
Yeah, of course. Unless you like really negotiate on the buy. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that you run your numbers as well as you can. You leave a bigger margin, and you make sure that you're careful with your renovations, and hopefully you'll make decent money out of it. But you can't really ever expect to be hitting it big out of the park every time. Sometimes you'll make 5K and it all just ends up evening out in the end.
Yeah.
With that being said, that's a good point to add, Dakota. Thanks for saying that. But I think also people maybe don't see the value in like just getting one under your belts and like getting the project done and learning like what had to be done, the timelines. You get better at that stuff every time you do it. Plus you're building a relationship with the contractors all the time. They know you now. And when you pick up the phone and call them, it's like, oh, it's Jeff and Dakota. Like, okay, let's go do this work. Like they're going to keep us kind of fed. So there's value in that too that people don't see. That's totally different from the actual profit you guys take home after a project's complete, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I said, we've done projects that are not pretty, right? Like, and you get to the end and you just have to realize that you have to take a step back and think, okay, what did we learn from this project? You know, it didn't go well, but what did we learn? And what can we do better next time? And, you know, the ones that you do well on, you take that as a win, and the ones that you don't do well on, you just learn from them. So it's a win no matter what, but you just have to make it a win no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, that's mindset.
Yeah.
Sure. You said it. I was just saying that's definitely a mindset thing. Some people get it, some people get discouraged, but the ones that understand it, they're the ones who have longevity, and they keep crushing it, right? So that's unreal. Those are big numbers, but like you said, not to be expected. Do you guys come up with your after repair value yourselves? Do you have other realtors kind of working with you? You guys aren't licensed to buy, like you're not realtors yourselves, are you?
No.
Okay. So you have a team that you work with.
Yeah, we'll use what we can, like Redfin will help us find houses that have sold and try and use those as comparables. I will also reach out to realtors. So it's a mix of both, doing it on our own and then getting either confirmation or getting even some additional insight from some realtors that can pull those.
Yeah, I think it depends on the area. So I guess depending on where your listeners are, sometimes I know there's like House Sigma, Redfin, but they're area dependent. So you can look to see if they're in your area or not. But there are sometimes resources like that. But otherwise, yeah, getting some good realtors that understand ARV, because it's not, I don't think it's like common. I don't think it's common knowledge among all realtors. So finding someone who really understands ARV and is able to pull comps for you.
Yeah.
Most realtors will pull as is comparables.
Yeah.
Which sure, that's good, but it's not going to tell you what it could be worth, right? So finding something that's been newly renovated in the same area with similar features is basically the ARV game, and that's what you kind of have to educate some realtors in actually understanding that concept.
Yeah, we have to cut out the realtors that are a little bit lazy and just push in 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom compute, and then by actually do some research and dig into this a little bit. I get it.
Yeah, look at the pictures. Has it been updated within the last few years, and did they do a good job? Is it similar?
Yeah. Right on. Cool. Do you guys have any plans to, like, you guys are flipping, and there's nice cash flow there, and you guys keep running that into their jobs, but is there any kind of properties you're going to hold for yourselves and like flip and then rent out after and still refinance and pull equity and just kind of start building up some kind of passive cash flow on the side?
We actually have 2 that we hold right now. Okay. We have, so the very first one that we did, the bungalow that we converted to 2 units, we still own that. It's rented out. And then we completed another SDU, based secondary dwelling unit, which is the same idea. So we took another bungalow and made it into 2 units. Yeah.
And we're even, so we have one property, speaking of projects that don't necessarily go well, we actually have a project that's on the market right now that's not, just with how things are in Ottawa right now, it's just not selling. So we're actually thinking of doing a rent to own with it.
Okay, cool.
So we're, I guess, not necessarily holding it, but like kind of holding it.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. 3 to 5 year.
Yeah.
Play,
so and I think that's the beauty of real estate investing, is you can, even if plan A doesn't work, there can be a plan B and a plan C, as long as you're willing to kind of see them. And then obviously we're going to be getting into the multifamily game. So that will be a whole other ball game. We're looking at the bigger apartment buildings, and those will hang out in the portfolio for a long time.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
The cool that you said it, like the cool thing about real estate is just the options you have. You can do RTO, you can do Airbnb, you can flip, you can sell, there's so many things you can do. You can break units apart, and just, when you give yourself those options, it's like, well, how can you set yourself up to lose? Like when you have all this kind of opportunity in front of you, as long as you put the work in, right, you can make it work. So
yeah, you just have to be willing to be a bit creative and not get stuck on your plan A, because again, with this flip, like it was a flip, right? Like we expected to go on market, we expected to be sold by now. And that was the game with that one. And when the market slowed down and nothing was really selling, we kind of took a step back. We're like, okay, what are we going to do with this house? Because we can't just keep it and let it sit. So, you just start going through the options. Do we rent it out? Do we do like a medium term rental? Can we look at short term rental, which is very difficult in Ottawa? They're very strict with their Airbnbs here. But
we don't want to rule it out. So it's
yeah,
still something
but it's still on the table.
Right.
And then, like rent to own came up. So I think as long as you're willing to not get stuck on, this was the plan and this is what needs to happen, and be a bit flexible, there's so many options. And it may not work out quite as well as plan A, but
could work out better.
Could work out better, or at least it's going to save your butt, right?
Long term.
Yeah. Multiple exit strategies.
Yeah.
Key. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess you guys have that networking available to you to kind of get the coaching side of, hey, we're doing a rent to own this one. Like, how does this work? Like, let's kind of walk through this. And you don't have to kind of figure that all on your own now. You have kind of that network you've built up. So that's amazing to tap into.
Yeah, it's building your network is really a beautiful thing, because as soon as we started thinking of rent to own, we knew a couple of people that were already doing rent to own, so we just reached out to them, got the information we needed, have a coach that has done rent to own before. So it came together actually pretty easily, going from, I know what rent to own is, but I don't really know enough to do it, to today I had a conversation with someone who's interested in our property for rent to own, and explaining it to her so that she could understand it. And that happened within a week, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's a beautiful thing of having a network, going from like, I literally don't even know how to start running these numbers, to now I'm explaining it to somebody else so they can get in on the property.
Yeah, so a tenant buyer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
It's pretty cool having a network like that.
I always say too, the best way to learn something is to have to teach to somebody else. So when you have to explain it to somebody else, you're gonna master that knowledge really quick. So you can break it down and understand, especially if they're a prospective tenant that wants to come in. Like, you have to be like on point with what's happening and like explain it so they get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think a week ago that would have made me want to cry, thinking of like talking to a tenant about it, because we just knew enough to know it was a strategy and kind of the high level stuff. So I think a week ago I would have probably cried before talking to a tenant, and then today it was like no problem. So it's
I heard the conversation, you killed it. So
there you go. Rent to own superstar. Here we go.
Who knew?
Another arm of the business. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, network, huge thing.
So you guys mentioned a couple of times on this episode already that you guys are getting into some bigger deals, some multi-family deals. What is the draw there? And you kind of explain like kind of how you're going about getting started in that world.
I think a lot of it is what attracts most people into real estate, and it's that buy and hold generational wealth that can be created. Mm-hmm. Passive income is a big part of it as well. Having a building that performs well, and the tenants are able to kind of pay down that mortgage and just create that passive income.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I know we got into real estate investing because we wanted to be able to take our time back. And if you get into real estate investing and you start doing something like flipping, you're not really getting your time back necessarily. You're just you basically have another job now, but it's your own company. So the big pull for us was getting that passive income and taking our time back. And we actually wanted to get into multifamily right away, which is why we did the SDU conversion as our first project, because we wanted to do buy and hold. I think our goals have gotten a little bit bigger since then, as making a duplex, but that was really the draw for us to get into real estate. When we realized we wanted to quit our jobs, that's when we flipped over to doing flipping, and so we could get that income to get out. But now that we're out of the flipping world, or out of our jobs, and we aren't necessarily trying to get that, like those big chunks of money to get out of our jobs, we now realize we wanted to get back into the multifamily space and learn that, because that was always the goal. We had to pivot a little bit to get sort of a shorter term goal in order to get back on track for our longer term goal.
Yeah.
So that's always been the draw. Obviously, like I said, I think initially it was like duplexes and triplexes, and now we're like looking at 20, 30 unit buildings. So that's changed a little bit.
Our mindset has changed on it as well, though. When we first started, we didn't realize the power of partnerships and bringing on other investors so that you can buy something that's a much bigger just size overall. So we were looking at the duplex because that's something, hey, we could afford it. That's what we could do. But having learned about just the power of OPM, other people's money, and bringing on partners, now like we put an offer in on a 16 unit. So it's just it's such a different game when you start to realize that there isn't really a ceiling.
Yeah.
If you can go find funding, you can get a lot done. You can get a lot of stuff done. Yeah, for sure.
Find something big enough and go start talking to REITs. Like there's no limit.
Yeah.
Right.
And really that transition happened with a coach. So we had a coach before that focused mostly on flipping and SDU conversions. And then with us wanting to get into multifamily, we found a coach that his thing is multifamily. And he's like I'd say multifamily dude in our area, if not, I'd say across one of the dudes across Canada. So it's really finding the person that is doing what you want to do and being like, hey, teach me how you're doing it.
Right.
So that's how that transition kind of happened, was us wanting to do the transition and then finding a coach to make that happen.
Right. And usually people that are listening to this, it's not a free thing. Like a lot of people, they're more than willing to help you in a lot of cases, but at some level, if you want to get to that next kind of step, there's paid mentorships that it shortens your learning curve, and it's totally just an investment in yourself, right? And you guys can attest to that. Like it's worth the money. It's what you want to do. Just find that person that's doing what you want to do and go just copy the system, right?
And that's the key as well. Not just finding any coach or mentor that's in the real estate business, finding somebody that's like, watch people. If they're doing what you want to do, then go after them and see if they'll mentor you. Don't just sign up for any coaching program because they promise the world. Find somebody that's actually doing what you want to do.
Right. Well said.
Yeah, and I know myself, if something is free, I may not show up. I may not do it.
You're not invested.
But if I'm paying for something, you better bet I'm going. I will show up and I will be doing it.
Yeah.
So, and I think, like obviously the investing community is like I've found so far, they really want to help each other, and they really, they want to bring in new people and, help them get on their journey. But when it comes down to it, you have to invest in yourself, because that's what's going to actually push you to do the work. Because I've put this money down, I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to let those like often thousands and thousands of dollars go to waste. I'm going to do it. So there's sort of like two sides of that, where don't be afraid to invest in yourself. And, those price tags, they look scary. Because I know when we first got started and looked at some of those price tags, it was terrifying. But now, like, we have no problem paying for mentorship because we know the returns that it brings. And then the flip side of that is you should be paying for things, because then you're going to do it.
Well, and then not only you're paying for it, so you're going to show up, but somebody else is getting paid, so they're going to deliver.
Sure. On both ends. Yeah.
So if somebody just wants to pick your brain, that term, I really don't like that term, because they're wanting to get something for free. So I will never go up to somebody and ask them if I can pick their brain. There needs to be that give and take. And if it's money in one direction and knowledge in the other, then that's one way of doing it.
Right. It has to be that win-win on either side. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right on. So here's a question for you. Why not? And I think I have my reasons why, but like you guys are talking about multifamily buildings and having a coach and getting you through that. Why not just buy 20, 25 single family homes instead? Why like a big building like that with that many units?
That sounds awful.
That's single family home is a very emotional purchase for people. It's a very different game than somebody that's moving into an apartment. They know that they're going to be renting. So are you asking more from a perspective of buy 25 houses, rent them out, or buy 25 houses and flip them and sell them?
I'm saying, like, if someone listens to this and they're saying, well, you guys, I can just go buy like 16, 20 houses myself versus buying one like big giant building. Like, why would you want the building versus the houses just to buy and hold and rent out? No flips involved, just buying. It's like straight buy and hold, like long term.
Right. It's a lot of roofs. for one thing.
Yeah.
Just to put it very simply, you have one tenant per house essentially that's paying for that. So that's one source of income, versus if you have a 16 unit or 25 unit apartment building instead, that's 25 sources of income for that same amount, really. One roof, maybe it's a little bit bigger of a scale.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a different game altogether, for sure.
Yeah, I think when you think of, a single family home, if you have a tenant move out, you've lost 100% of your income for that property. So you now have nobody who's paying that mortgage except for you. Whereas if you have a 20 unit building and one person moves out of that 20 unit building, you still have 19 people who are paying that mortgage. So that's a big part of it. And like Jeff said, you have now 25 different things to maintain, whereas like a 25 unit building, yeah, like things are bigger, there's more windows, there's a slightly bigger roof, but I'd rather a couple more windows and a bigger roof over like 25 different roofs, right? So it's actually a lot more expensive to have 25 doors be all separate houses than it is to have 25 doors contained in one building. Plus, on the other side of it, like I think Jeff was kind of getting to this before, the single family home space is very emotional. So when you're purchasing those, you're often purchasing at a higher price than you would if you were to go to your like per door price in a 25 unit building. Yeah. And when you're buying multifamily, it's all numbers. You're dealing with other investors. You're not dealing with people who are single family home buyers. When you're dealing with other investors, it's like, what are the numbers? There's no emotions attached to it. Do the numbers work? Yes or no? And it's like very black or white. So it's like a nicer environment for investors because it's all based on your numbers.
Well, and going back to the cost per door, I mean, average cost of a house in Ottawa, I think, is 600,000 ish. Okay. That's $600,000 a door, versus if you're buying an apartment building, I mean, you could get in under $100,000 a door if it's kind of run down or tertiary market or something, or up to, I don't know,
200 in Ottawa, 200 to 300 a door, depending on how new the building is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, just based on the numbers there, and like it's just easier to scale when you have one building, and kind of instead of having so much to manage, just the one kind of thing right there, and cheaper, and a lot of factors.
Easier to maintain.
That's a long answer, but there are a lot of factors.
Yeah, that's good.
25 houses sounds like a headache. I was like, oh man, that's a lot to manage.
Yeah. Plus, you lose a lot in like the transaction, right? So that's going to be 25 separate transactions versus one transaction when you go to purchase or when you go to sell.
Right. The exit strategy.
So government has their hands in the pocket, and then you have so like your land transfer taxes, and then just there's going to be lawyer fees for each one, and
sure.
It just sounds awful.
It just sounds like a lot. It just sounds like a lot of maintenance and maintaining.
If there's an easier way to have a passive kind of investment and get some of that time back that you just talked about, go with the multifamily building. It's all under one roof. If there is an issue, you know where to go. It's not like you're driving around different places too. It's kind of like having if you have a lawn cutting business on like just your street versus like the entire city. It's like, oh my God, I have all these different properties everywhere. Versus just my street, it's right there. It's like just boom, bang it off, right?
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's a lot of lawns to maintain.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I hope it works out for you guys. Hope you guys find out soon about that offer you made. Hopefully it's secured and you can kind of move up and get that under your belts. I'm sure you guys are excited to hear about that too. Where do you guys see this going? Like long term? What's the end game for you?
I would like to get more into the passive investing side, where we're no longer being the active purchase and like maintaining and to really have my time back. So I'm lending out on other people's projects, and I don't have to worry about anything except for what's my return, when am I getting my money back, and
yeah. I think the big thing is, I mean, We're sort of in a place right now where we're trying to figure out where exactly the flipping piece and the multifamily piece kind of fit together. So what directions we're going with sort of both of these pieces. But we do know we want like a multifamily portfolio. I wrote down a very big number this weekend at an event I was at, which I was like, because the person running it gets you to like double your number and then double your number again, and it got very big by the end of that.
What was it?
We'll say
You got to say it.
We'll say it started at 1,000 doors in 5 years, and then it got doubled a couple of times. So that final number was a little scary, but definitely like I would say a relatively big portfolio of multifamily. We also, I shouldn't say we, I also want to eventually get into doing some coaching. We actually have started this year. We have one mentee right now. So we're trying to still protect our time, but I like the idea of coaching. I've always liked the idea of teaching and that kind of stuff. So doing a bit of coaching, doing some giving back through the stuff that we've learned in real estate investing, because I think we've been given a lot during our journey. So to be able to kind of pass that along. Yeah. And then there's also sort of this idea floating around of creating a bigger flipping business with some partners as well. So we're sort of still trying to figure out where that fits in, but it's definitely apparently at least 1,000 units, maybe double that in 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. Like once you have those goals down though too, you start taking steps to hit them, right? You start chipping away at them, and then you look back in a couple of years like, holy shit, there's 1,000. See you later. There's 2, there's 4, So I'm excited to see looking like where you guys are at in 5 years. Sounds you're going to be doing some crazy cool things, and you're going to have just hopefully the lifestyle you guys want in 5 years, and just you'll have the option to do whatever you guys want to do, and you'll have total control of your time, which is awesome, right? That's super cool. So sounds to me like you guys are on the right path for sure. For sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely the goal. I don't think we're gonna get like our time back and then just like let it
lay on a beach for the rest of our
I don't
lives?
think that's ever gonna
not.
happen. But I mean, at least knowing that you have total control of your time and you get to do what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
That's
following a passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it's about, finding whatever you want to do in life and just doing that pretty much every day, right?
Exactly.
If you guys had like one piece of advice for new investors, we'll just leave on a couple of questions here. What'd be like the biggest piece of advice for a new real estate investor, like right now getting started from the scratch day one?
I think we touched on it already. Getting a coach.
Get a coach. Sure.
Yeah. And it's intimidating at first. And maybe at first you don't really know because I know we talked about like finding someone who is where you want to be and, going after them to coach you. And maybe at first, you have to figure out which, do you want to flip? Do you want to wholesale? Do you want to buy multifamily? So it might at first take like, maybe going through like an overview course to sort of dab like into all the different ones and figuring out what your thing is. Mm-hmm. And then from there, finding someone that's doing whatever that thing is and getting them to teach you. It looks like a lot of money up front, but it's going to save you so much money and time down the road. Yeah,
for sure. Keep the long-term goals in play, and a little bit of pain up front isn't the big deal when you stretch it over 20, 30 years of returns, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, there's a sorry, Jeff, there's a strategy for everybody out there, but not everybody, and not every strategy works for everybody. You know what I mean? Like you got to go through and find what works best for you based on your strengths and your interests, and just take that and hit it and run like you guys have. So that's cool. Any good books you guys recommend to new investors as well?
I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad, #1.
That's the one, yeah.
That's going to help with just that whole mindset of understanding the difference between that 40-40 plan and kind of working for yourself and building something where you have like passive income.
Yeah. And then our first book that got us into real estate investing was Real Estate Investing in Canada. So obviously if you're Canadian, it's a really good book. So a lot of books are written from an American point of view. So Real Estate Investing in Canada by Don Campbell was our first investing book. Mm-hmm.
Go check it out at the library, folks. Get the library card out. Go get some books. They're there. I trust me. They're in St. Catherine. I'm sure they're in Ottawa too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For free.
Lots we read every day. Like I always start my day with reading and end my day with reading. So I've gone through a lot of books.
Yeah. It's powerful. Just what you can pick up in someone else's like life's work in your hands. Like, oh my God, this person's a genius. So I just downloaded what it took them 30 years to like figure out. I just downloaded it like a couple of days. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the best way to start investing in yourself for sure. Is reading.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Just keep learning. Don't stop learning after you're done high school, university. Just keep figuring stuff out. It'll take you far in life. But Jeff, Dakota, thank you so much for being here. People want to work with you, number one, in Ottawa region, because who wouldn't want to work with you guys? You guys are big time investors now, right? So if they do want to get a hold of you, what is the best way to get in contact with you two? So
our company is Opinicon Investments, and we are on Instagram. We're obviously on Facebook. We are very recently on TikTok. I don't
still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, don't go to TikTok first and judge us based on that. And then we're creating a YouTube channel, so that'll be up and running soon. But yeah, if you search Opinicon Investments on Facebook, Instagram, and maybe TikTok, and eventually and soon to be YouTube, you'll get a hold of one of us. You never know who you're talking to, so I will warn you on that. But one of us will answer.
Our individual accounts are on there as well. So if you want to reach out to either one of us.
Yeah, if you want to know who you're talking to.
You can find it through our company one. So
and I'll make sure to post the individual ones in the description for this episode too. So it'll be all kind of just there for you guys as well.
Awesome. And then just want to know Opinicon too.
Yeah.
Most people will see it and then not know how to pronounce it. But then also the other way around. So
yeah.
Right on. Cool. Well, Jeff, Dakota, thank you guys again so much for stopping by. I know you guys are busy. You guys have a lot of stuff going on. 4 flips right now. Is that right? Like right now? 4?
No, we have one on market, one hitting the market probably within 2 weeks, and one that's just kind of starting.
Okay. So 3 on the go.
3 going on right now.
Yeah.
Plus the multifamily stuff. So it's like basically 4.
Plus YouTube, plus making videos, plus trying to coach and all that other stuff. There's a lot going on. Yeah. Busy days, but I appreciate you taking the time today. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, we'll talk again soon.